Okay. My name's Koren Finnestad, and my husband and I are the owners of Drover's Trail Natural Farms. We have 6 children. Our oldest is going to be 30 this year. My youngest is 14, so they're 16 years apart. And what I do today is just an extension of how I raised them, how I fed them. Little did I know that God was preparing me to help people once my kids were raised. And it's tremendous joy and opportunity. What we're going to talk about today, the fermented foods, is an extension of my personal illness. How many know what colostrum difficile is? How many have had it? How many have suffered for a long time from it? Did you get over it quickly?
No, I know what it is because my neighbor had it.
Okay.
After surgery.
So a lot of people get sick with this. From my research, for 5, 10, 15 years, they wind up doing fecal implants, and eventually they wind up dying. Now, why is that? Well, because when you go back to the doctor, they give you an antibiotic. What does an antibiotic do? It kills your microbiome even more. It destroys the good bacteria. So if you don't rebuild your good bacteria, you're going to stay sick. It's pretty simple. When I was researching it, I had a thermal ablation 10 years ago. I was hemorrhaging, and so I researched it. Didn't want to go on an antibiotic. I know, but there's a place for them. But if I could heal myself naturally, I was going to try to do that. So after researching, fermented foods came up. And so I went to a health food store and got everything fermented I could find and did a different ferment every 2 hours, like sauerkraut, kimchi, kombucha, which I'm going to show you guys how to make all this stuff shortly. But within 3 days, I went from liquid stool to completely normal in 3 days' time. I was mind blown. It's really, I was mind blown, and I thought, okay, what just happened to me? So I went to the library, I got books, and that's, all the books, and I started reading and researching, and they're still, as you saw there, the scientists they're studying it like crazy because they're connecting the gut health to everything now. Alzheimer's, dementia, everything. It all stems in the gut, and the healing begins in the gut, and the sickness begins in the gut. So I was just reading as much as I possibly could get my hands on, and then once I learned, I thought, well, I can't keep this to myself. If I can help people restore their gut and improve their health, then why would I not want to do that? So that's when my journey began in fermentation, which is what brings me here today. All the other stuff, the healthy foods and stuff, I already was doing that. The only thing I was making prior to my C. diff was yogurt and kefir, which you guys are going to try that today. But once I started learning this stuff and finding out that the American diet, we have nothing like this. Americans don't eat this. Other countries all over the world eat ferments every single day. It's like a staple. It's something that they know that they need to have to keep themselves healthy and strong. We in America, we don't have that knowledge. We don't have that information. And so we continue to eat the American diet, and we get sicker and sicker and sicker. So we can go to the next slide. Oh, I can. Yes.
Were you eating organics before all of this?
We've lived on our farm for 25 years. And before that, we lived in a house for 8 years, and we've always grown our own food.
Okay.
Do I buy stuff from the grocery store? I do. I don't buy lettuce in the wintertime. I can't bring myself to do it. But I'll eat microgreens. That's something I can grow. But yeah, for the most part, my diet is pretty much what I grow. The meats are what I raise. We go out once in a while, which is why I'm run down. I went on a couple times in Florida. We ate out, which I rarely ever do. And it wreaks a havoc on you. And I wasn't doing my ferments when I was there, so I put myself in a weaker state. Yeah. And there's a lot of germs flying around. I know there's a lot of sick people. So the fact that I'm still able to work and function and feel fine. I can just tell that, my throat's scratchy and I have a little congestion. But anyways, so this is just more about the microbiome, which I think you guys got an idea of what it is now. So we can go to our next slide. This is fermented drinks, which we're going to talk about. I'm going to show you how to make kombucha, and then I have samples here for you to try. There's also water kefir that I didn't bring with me today, simply because my water kefir grains died when I was in Florida, so I couldn't make it when I got home. I'm restarting them this week. So we can go to our next slide. The kombucha again, so we can Go forward. And these are just some benefits just from drinking it. Can you guys all read that? And while we're on this slide, I'm going to mention this author here, Donna Schwenk. This lady here, I think she's been doing fermented foods for about 12 years. She's a little ahead of me. She was very sick. She had depression, anxiety, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, and she stumbled on to fermented foods. And she started learning about fermented foods, and her health has changed. All those symptoms are completely gone. She's off blood pressure medication. She's off a blood sugar medication, and she does not suffer from anxiety or depression any longer. And she's the same as me. She's like, I can't keep this to myself. I need to tell people about it, But she wrote a book. I'm not going to write a book. Maybe someday. But anyways, this is full of recipes and testimonies. And there's another one here, up here on my stand. She's got, if you're suffering from eczema or acne or allergies, IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, any kind of an intestinal or digestive disorder, you can fix it just by healing your gut, your microbiome. And so,
also heal Crohn's disease.
Crohn's disease, yes.
That's a big.
It's a huge problem. Celiac disease. A lot of people suffer from, they say, the gluten intolerance, but I don't know if you guys are aware of what they're doing to our food, how they're growing the food these days, and how they're adulterating them with chemicals, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides. Which is why we are a certified naturally grown farm. That means we don't spray anything on our foods. When you eat from me, it's not going to feed cancer cells, it's going to feed your good gut bacteria, your good health. And when they talk about probiotics and prebiotics and that, probiotics are the fermented foods, okay? Prebiotics are your vegetables and your fruits. These are the prebiotics that actually feed your probiotics and feed your good, healthy gut bacteria. We need to have fruits and vegetables, not because the FDA says it, because our gut bacteria needs this in order to stay strong and healthy. If we don't have this stuff in our diet, then our good bacteria is not going to stay strong and healthy. So that variable bacteria that I talked about earlier, if we're eating too many coffee cakes and sugars and sweets and things like that, high carbs and not enough leafy greens and fresh fruits, we're feeding that variable into bad bacteria. So once it gets off kilter, the bad bacteria overweighs the good bacteria, you get sick. It's pretty simple. So I highly recommend her books. There's a story that she shares in here about getting food poisoning. We've all had that. She had food poisoning so bad the week she had just started her first fermentation, and so bad that she said they were having hallucinations and all kinds of stuff. She'd never been that sick before. She could hardly even stand up. But she remembered that she just fermented the vegetables a week ago. So she thought, I'm going to go, if I can get myself to the refrigerator. And so she managed to get herself to the refrigerator, and she didn't even want to eat the actual vegetable. She just slugged down a few swallows of the brine, and she went back to bed. 20 minutes later, she was at her kitchen sink washing dishes, feeling completely normal. It's mind-blowing how quickly we can transform our bacteria. If you think about, they say 100 trillion. I say it's more like 300 trillion bacteria living, because it's basically doing everything in your body. But if you are what you eat, you're feeding that bacteria what you're putting into your mouth. They're going to respond very quickly, right? They're going to respond very quickly to what you're putting down there. It goes directly into the bloodstream, feeds the bacteria, and that's who you are. You are what you eat. So, all right, we can move to our next slide. Please, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and hit it again, because we have the information on sauerkraut here. All right, so these are the benefits of sauerkraut. I think it's pretty mind-blowing that if you were to eat cabbage raw or coleslaw, you're getting about 60 milligrams of vitamin C. If you ferment it, you boost it to 600 milligrams of vitamin C. So you can bet I've been eating a lot of this in the last couple days. Yesterday I had a nice big bowl of it with fermented radish, and my 14-year-old daughter, who's been sick for 10 days now, she's sitting there eating it with me. She loves it. So this is a superfood. Donna Schwenk believes in a system, her little system, she calls it the trilogy. And her three things are kombucha, which is our fermented drink, sauerkraut, and milk kefir, which you guys are going to learn all those today. She does not go a day without those things. All right, we can go to our next slide. Just pictures of, everything you can ferment.
Our
We
pantry.
do.
Is that our pantry? No. In the future?
It would be in the refrigerator. Yeah, you have to keep this stuff cold, and you don't ever want to cook your ferments because of the live bacteria. So there's live bacteria in all this, and if you were to heat it up, you'll destroy it. So if you go to the grocery store and say, oh, she said to get sauerkraut, and you go to the shelf and buy sauerkraut, there's no bacteria living. Anytime you get something in a can jar, shelf stable, there's no live bacteria in there. The only thing you're really going to get from that is going to be fiber. Okay? Maybe a little nutrition, but no live bacteria. You want to get it from the refrigeration section. Like if you go to the health food store, a grocery store, if they have it in the refrigeration section, hopefully, especially if it's German, it would have the bacteria. And it would say it on the packaging, live bacteria. And that's what you want to look for. When you go to the store and you buy yogurt or kefir, you want to have it say live probiotics, lactobacillus, the bacilluses. You want to see all that stuff on your label, okay? I guarantee you, if you buy mine, it's there. We use raw milk. We get raw milk from an Amish farm in Indiana, and that's all we drink. And I brought some for you guys to try today. It's delicious. Milk is so good the way it's intended to be drank.
You don't have that at Health Nuts, though, do you?
I don't, but there's a lady that sells
Down
it.
the way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. She's going to get out of it though, and she
Oh,
asked me if I wanted to sell it, and I was like, no, I don't need one more thing to sell. All right, so now we're going to get to do the fun stuff. We'll start with the radish and the beets, because these things. Now these I got from a farmer up in at the Green City Farmers Market. So if I don't have my own stuff, which I just got done selling all my fermented radish, they're completely gone. So I got some from another farmer up there that does not spray. They're really good up there. So that's what these are from, and these beets are from the same farmer. But in the summertime, I do as much ferments and canning with my own stuff as I possibly can. And then when that's all sold, which now these two items are all sold, I have to purchase them from somebody that I trust. Okay, so these are just radish. Most of them are still whole. And
Those are not nearly as big as the one that was in that picture, are they?
no, we'd have to cut that one up. Yeah, that would probably fill the jar. So fermentation, lactofermentation is not complicated. It really is not. It's just a lost art, and a lot of people are just afraid of it. The thing about fermentation is that when you actually ferment the vegetables and you pull those bacteria from the vegetable, that's all the healthy bacteria, and it usually outnumbers the bad bacteria. So you're not going to get sick from eating fermented vegetables. We think in our country that we're going to get sick. You just need to make sure that the vegetables are submerged under the brine. Okay. Now this brine here is 4 tablespoons of pink Himalayan sea salt to this quart of water. And if you're going to ferment, you want to get a good quality water. Since I live on a farm and I have well water, I know it's loaded with minerals and all kinds of good stuff. But for you guys, if you don't live on a farm, you don't have access to well water, you'd want to get mineral water, even distilled water. You just don't want to get regular drinking water. Typically it has chlorine and fluoride in it, and you don't want to put that into your fermented vegetables. So 4 tablespoons sea salt to 1 quart of water is what this is. And then these are that's all it is just the radish. And they're covered. Sometimes the vegetable will pop up, okay? If that happens, you could take like a cabbage leaf. They do have fancy weights that you can get, like little glass weights that you can put on top of the vegetables to make sure that they stay down. I tell people you could put just like a plastic bag with some water in it and put it on top. That'll hold it down, okay? And then I have a huge tray of these right now fermenting, and that's what they look like in another couple days. This is because in the wintertime, fermentation is a little slower because of the temperature. In the summertime, these will be done in 3 days. In the wintertime, it's probably more like 5 to 7 days. And they are delicious. When you try the kimchi, there is some radish in here. Try to dig a radish out so you can taste it. It's going to be more flavored than just a plain radish. But this doesn't taste anything like a radish. It's crunchy, and it's just really, really good. I mean, if you like pickles, you're going to like pretty much any ferment. And then this is just the beets. That was hard, huh? Isn't that difficult? So again, when you do fermented vegetables, you are increasing the nutrition, like I mentioned with the cabbage. You're going from 60 milligrams of vitamin C to 600 milligrams of vitamin C. It's the same with this stuff. You're just like, you're taking a regular vegetable that's already good for you, and you're making it a superfood, and super for your gut health. Okay, this is the same. It's called the 2% brine. information, and I do have some flyers for you guys. Like, let's say you want to go home and you want to do some of this stuff. I have information. Just let me know at the end of everything. This is just
4 tablespoons of
pink Himalayan sea salt is what I like to use.
1 quart
Of good distilled or well water. Yes.
And that's the chunky sea salt?
Not chunky, it's the fine.
The fine?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and you kind of want to use like a little bit of warm water, not hot, but warm enough to kind of dissolve your salt.
Okay.
And then, like you just saw me, it is a lot of salt. And you know what? You can try to cut back on it. The thing with fermentation is that, like what I just shared with you, if you're not creating the lacto fermentation and pulling that bacteria from the vegetable, and salt does that. It breaks it down and it starts pulling it naturally. If you don't have enough salt, then you are going to wind up getting some bad bacteria in there, which you'll know. You'll know that it'll be mucky and moldy, and you'll be able to tell. So you have to kind of experiment with it. Because I sell it, you know, I want to make sure. But I mean, I was drinking this brine yesterday. It was a little bit salty, but I was drinking my fermented brine just for the health benefits. And if it's too salty, you can try to cut back a tablespoon and see if it ferments for you fine. But it's kind of going to be a trial and error experiment. But what they typically recommend is 4 tablespoons per quart of salt. And if you're thinking of, I mean, a lot of times the salt's going to float to the bottom of the jar. You're not eating all that salt. And you can take it and rinse it off. You can take your just like you can take a pickle and rinse it off under cold water to kind of get some of that salt off the, you know, the inside of the vegetable is going to have some of the saltiness, but it's not going to be as salty.
So once you pull the brine in there, you put it in the refrigerator?
No, good question. So no, this is going to sit on the counter for, like I said, in the summertime it would be 3 days. Now it's going to take more like 5 to 7 days. Because it's red radish, all this liquid is going to turn red. It's beautiful. I mean, it's so pretty. But then there's no more red left on the radish. So when you pull the radish out, it's just completely white, and the red's in the brine. So it's really pretty. And then this, the beets, I did have fermented beets, so I brought those for you guys to try. But look how dark that is. So all
What are those beets?
those are beets, fermented beets. Which, by the way, are better than pickled beets because, you know, you're getting all the probiotics in here. But it's okay to have pickled beets too, you know. But try these.
Oh, thank you.
I know a lot of people really like them. And then the sauerkraut's the same thing, which I'm not even going to pour the water in. It's the same thing. I like to put caraway in my sauerkraut, which you guys get to try that with the caraway. I think it gives it a nice flavor. And that's...
But if we cook it in a meal, like with sausage or whatever, we're destroying the goods that we made,
Right.
right?
You don't want to cook it.
Okay.
What about onions, red onions? Could you do it with that?
You know, I haven't fermented red onions, but there are green onions in here. So I can't imagine why you wouldn't be able to ferment red onions. I just have never done a thing that called for them. I've done garlic, lots of garlic. There's garlic in the beets. There's garlic in here. There's ginger in here. Well, I would imagine you could use red onions. I just haven't personally done that. You can do like a just plain garlic, which I have a lot of, you know, which I've took sage and tarragon and oregano, and I fermented my garlic in big cloves with rosemary, and so I put it in a jar under the brine. So like when I made mashed potatoes for Thanksgiving, I minced the fermented garlic into the potatoes while I was mixing them. So you know, there's ways you can sneak ferments into a lot of different foods. And you don't, I mean, who doesn't like fresh garlic? Fermented it tastes really just like fresh. It doesn't lose its nice pungent taste, but you're getting the properties, the probiotics.
So pickled and fermented are two different.
Two totally different things. And canned and fermented are two different things. Yes.
So you're making a coleslaw, so is that, if you put that brine in there, did you make coleslaw? Sorry, I guess I got
No.
obvious then.
No, coleslaw is fresh, raw. It's
Oh, sorry,
sauerkraut.
sorry.
Okay.
I got the wrong word.
Yes. So if I were to put the water in here, I would actually massage this a little bit. When you're dealing with shredded things such as cabbage, and like when I make my kimchi sauce with those big bus tubs, so we put them in the big bus tubs and then we massage it. You would do the same thing with the shredded cabbage. You would massage it, and so this is going to break down to like maybe that size right there. Because what happens when you put the salt on there, you're pulling the liquid from the vegetable and you're breaking it down. And so you just massage it until it actually creates its own brine. So this can actually create its own brine. You don't need to put this on here. It will pull it from there. And if you find that it's still not enough brine to cover it, then you could add a little of this. But it's simple to make it.
If I recall, when we made sauerkraut in one of the classes, you didn't put the lid on tight, and it took from a full week to 2 weeks, depending on how tart we wanted it.
Depending on that, depending on the temperature, and yes, when you do make this, and that's a good point. When you make sauerkraut, you're going to cover it with a coffee filter and a rubber band because it needs some air to circulate. Not all ferments need it.
Is that the only thing that we need to do that with? This
Kombucha as well. Kombucha, yeah.
Okay,
Kombucha
so
needs.
everything else is,
These can be
like
just
you said,
capped,
tightly.
tightly sealed, yeah.
Okay.
And same with the yogurt and kefir, tightly sealed.
Okay.
Even the kimchi. This probably could be. I just have never done it that way because this is cabbage too. So I don't understand why.
Oh, right.
Um,
Kimchi is cabbage.
yeah. But from what I've read, it says that this needs air and this needs air.
I know why that is, because cabbage is gassy.
That sounds good to me.
Yeah, with cabbage.
You guys have any more questions about the sauerkraut? I mean, it's really not hard to make, and I have a flyer on how to make that. Okay, so let's move on to, well, let me do this one next. This is pretty fascinating. This is apple cider vinegar. So,
what?
apple cider vinegar,
Okay.
which you guys get to sample this today. Now, this is so easy to make. I get apples from the same person that I get the cranberries from, and we don't grow a lot of fruit on our farm, so I have to get stuff from other people. So I apple peel core, and then I slice the apples, put them in the freezer for my baked goods, and the scraps, the core and the skins, go in a glass jar, a big glass jar, and then I just cover it with water, and I put a coffee filter over the top of it, and a rubber band, and then that's it. It sits on my counter for 2 months. And that's how you make apple cider vinegar.
And how long does it take?
About 2 months.
2 months.
Taste it after 2
So
months.
all that stuff that I've been throwing away,
Yeah.
when I make my smoothies.
Isn't it sad?
All except the seeds.
The seeds they are known to be carcinogenic, but I leave mine in.
Oh, you do?
There's not, I mean, it's not a ton. It's mostly the skins. A lot of times when you apple peel a corn, the seeds are falling out too.
Right.
So, and again, the bacteria is going to destroy, the good bacteria is going to destroy anything bad in there.
Oh,
So, so you don't need to be worried about that. But you guys get to sample how good this is.
that would be awesome.
And before I do kombucha, somebody asked me about all these growing scobies. Okay, this is a Scobie. You guys all need to look at Scobie. Scobie stands for Symbiotic Colony of Bacteria and Yeast. So Scobie is an acronym, S-C-O-B-Y, and that's what it is. It doesn't look real pretty. Some people say it looks like a brain. Every time you actually make kombucha, it has a baby because it's alive. It's alive. And that's, people ask me all the time, how do I know if it's still alive? Well, because it has a baby. And the baby actually forms on the top. And the baby is clearer and prettier. But every time you make it, you're going to have a little film of new growth on the top. And that's the baby. And so this is called the mother. Have you heard of mother like in apple cider vinegar? This is the mother for,
I didn't see the baby.
there's not a baby in here yet.
Oh.
Because there really kind of is a baby in here. Like if you look right here and you can see how it's clear,
Oh, yeah.
do you see how there's a different shade on top? That's the baby. Okay? We're going to use the whole thing as a mother now. Because it doesn't matter if you keep them together. You put them together and you can make a new batch. So kombucha, this is kombucha here. This is flavored kombucha. It's got turmeric, lemon, and ginger. And we use all fresh ingredients. So it's freshly zested turmeric. It's freshly zested lemon and fresh lemon juice. And then this is lemon lime. And that's the only flavors I had. We sold out of everything. And she was bottling when I left, so I couldn't bring any others. But I do have other flavors at Health Nuts across the street available. So, I also sell kits. Like if you wanted to have everything that you needed to start your own, you would get a jar You would get organic tea. I use organic green tea. The reason I don't use black tea, which you could use, but black tea tends to be high in oxalates, which can cause kidney stones, which I've had in the past from eating too many leafy greens. So I tend to stay away from the black and just use a green. You can also use decaf. It doesn't have to be a caffeinated tea. I just tie my bags together because it makes it easier to pull them out. So you just put the tea inside your glass jar, your tea bags, and you're just going to, just like you would steep a cup of tea, just going to add some hot water. And again, this is my well water, so you need to make sure you're using good water. Just enough to steep it for a little while, about 15 minutes. It'll sit there. And then once it's steeped, then you're just going to take your tea bags out. You're going to add your organic sugar. And then you're going to fill it with the rest of your good water, which I brought my water from home.
Is that the same as raw sugar that you find in the grocery store, labeled raw sugar?
Raw sugar could still be non-organic.
That's right,
Yeah, this is organic. Costco sells this. I get this in a big bag at Costco.
What is it?
It's organic sugar.
I do too. I love it.
So it just means that it hasn't been sprayed with pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides, chemicals that are going to make you sick. So buy organic as much as possible. I don't know if you're familiar with the Dirty Dozen or the Clean 15.
Yeah.
Okay, as Chris probably taught you guys about
Yes.
that. So, you know, save your money and buy the Clean 15 vegetables that you can, and spend your money on things like apples and celery and strawberry. Only buy organic, because if you think of, and pears, if you think about that stuff, they are soaking in everything.
Okay.
So you got to know, you know, you can Google them, and you can have lists on your phone. So when you actually go shopping, just try to stick to that. Potatoes, really bad. You want to get those organic.
I can't even, like, I've been looking, I can't even find organic potatoes. I need to know
Oh no, yeah, yes, you can find them at Meijer. I think Jewel has them sometimes.
see that you like.
Mariano's might have them. Yeah, you got to look for them. You're going to pay a couple dollars more, but it's worth it. It's definitely worth it.
Do sweet potatoes need to be organic?
Yes, anything that's going to, yeah. Well, anything that has a porous shell. You know, like avocados. No, you're fine. Actually, cabbage. You could actually buy regular cabbage. This is considered a Clean 15 because bugs don't want to eat cabbage. It's rare. I get slugs on my cabbage in my garden, you know, but those aren't considered bugs that are going to destroy it. They'll eat from the bottom as long as I harvest it in enough time. It's fine for the most part, but for the most part, cabbage is not attacked. So farmers don't typically spray it, and scientists have tested cabbage, and it comes out very, very low, if any, pesticides, which is good. It is good to know. And again, remember that when you ferment stuff, you're going to kill all that bad stuff. Try to start organic, but if you can't, it's not in your budget, remember if you ferment stuff, it's going to take care of those bad things for you.
You said having fluoride in the water is not good also. So even if we filter our water at home, the filters do not take out the fluoride.
Yeah, so I don't,
to date.
yeah, I
So-
figured, or the chlorine,
By the wa- Right, oh, I know chlorine.
yeah.
Well, a lot of them list chlorine as one of the things that they
Treat.
reduce, if not eliminate.
Yeah.
So we have to buy more.
That's something I don't have good advice for you. I really don't. I know I'm very spoiled because I have the well water. If you know anybody that has well water, you know, go get a couple gallons or whatever, if you can. But because even like the stuff that is distilled or mineral, who knows where it's coming from? I don't know. I mean, I can't tell you what's on a grocery store shelf and where it came from and if it's good for you or not. But Carmen was asking me, like I told you guys, every time you make kombucha, this Scobie's going to have a baby. Well, you know, if you're making it every week or even every other week, you're going to be having lots of babies. So this little Scobie gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger till you have like a huge amount of Scobies. Now there's a couple things you can do with them. You can start a Scobie hotel, which basically just means put it in a bigger glass jar, give it some sweet tea, and then just let it sit there. Share it with your friends, or you can take a chunk of it out and you can blend it with some fruit. And I use organic frozen fruit just because I usually always have that for my flavoring. And we blend it in a blender, and then we just put it on parchment paper, and we put it inside of our food dehydrator at 110. Anything above that will kill the probiotics, and we dry it. And then we wind up with this delicious fruit leather that tastes like candy. It's fantastic. So the Scobie's in here, but you guys get to sample this too. It's, if you've ever had fruit leather. So what this flavor here is raspberries, mango, and then the Scobie. That's all that's in it. And when you try it, you'll be like, are you kidding me? So when we travel, we take these with us on a plane. When I can't take my bottles with me, I'll take my fruit leather with me. And so we typically have a piece of this a day when we're traveling, and it just keeps our immune system strong. So there's your answer. Scobie leather. Oh, that's right. Yeah. So that's what you do with all those extra Scobies that you have.
If you don't have a dehydrator, can you
Your
just
oven.
use the oven? Okay.
The problem with the oven is the lowest temperature that my oven goes to is 135. 135 is too high. So, I mean, you're going to kill the probiotics. So 110 is about as high.
Blend it with the fruit. What did you say you added to it?
The Scobie. You might need a little water if it's like really, really thick, but that's it. It's just the fruit and the Scobie and just a little bit of water just so it can puree.
And how long?
How long what? Do you mix it?
In the dehydrator.
In the dehydrator?
My dehydrator that I have, I think it takes about 10 hours.
Are they
I mean, it's
basically
110.
one temperature, the dehydrators?
No.
Oh, they're not.
Yeah, you can adjust them.
Oh.
Yeah, I have one that is one temperature, but then I have a nicer one that you can actually adjust the temperature, which you would really want to do if you're doing stuff like this. Okay, so the last thing I think I have here to show you guys is the yogurt and the kefir, which I've been having this, I've been having at least a cup of this every single day since I've been kind of run down. This is part of Donna Schwenk's trilogy. She has this milk kefir every single day. Milk kefir is phenomenal. It's got over 54 strains of healthy bacillus, bacteria. So it's amazing. And yogurt has about 10. The thing is that they're both different. They have different bacteria, so they both can benefit you. So a lot of times when I make a smoothie, I'll use both yogurt and kefir, and kombucha, and water kefir, and my microgreens, and I'm getting this really, really nutritious smoothie. So you guys get to try these, but I'm going to show you how to make them. Now I just buy these packets. They're yogurt and kefir packets, and what they are is they're freeze-dried cultures. And so all you do is you open up one of these packets. There's 6 of them come in here. The kefir is a little more expensive. I think it's close to $9. The yogurt I think is like $7, but you get 6. So you're going to get 6 quarts for that price, which is a really good price. I order these online. Yeah, you can get them from Cultures for Health, or I think Amazon carries them. So just one packet will make a quart for you. Okay. Now for kefir, you don't even need to heat the milk. You can actually just keep it room temperature. So I could take this packet, open it, put it in this milk right here at this temperature, whisk it around really good, make sure it's whisked in really, really good, put the lid back on it, and just leave it sitting on my counter for 24 hours. And that's it. You'll have kefir. Now, the yogurt...
Is that raw milk?
This is raw milk.
And what would we use?
If you can't get your hands on raw milk, there's a milk called Kolona that I used to use, Kolona. I used to use that when I made my kefir and yogurt. That is VAT, V-A-T, pasteurized, which basically means it hasn't been heated over 110 degrees to kill the living bacteria. I mean, you can make yogurt with pasteurized milk, but you're not going to have all this live bacteria. If you're going to have yogurt, exactly. Do it right. I'm not sure what Mariano's has, but I would think that they have a section out there that you can buy some good quality milk. So you're looking for either VAT, V-A-T, or batch, B-A-T-C-H, pasteurized. And it should say that it's not been heated over a certain temperature, so all the living bacteria is still present there. Okay? So, now yogurt is a little different. Yogurt, you have to pour the milk into a pot and heat it up, not more than 110 degrees. So I put my candy thermometer inside there that clips on the side of the pan, and I just kind of stir it around and wait for it to come to like 105. As soon as it turns to 105, I turn the heat off because I don't want it to go over 110. Okay? And so then I'll just pour like this much in there, and I'll add the packet. I dissolve it really good, and then I'll add the rest of the warm milk in there. And then cap it, and then it needs to be kept warm. So for what I do right now is I have a seedling mat which is basically just like a heating pad that sits on my counter. It's what you use to start your seeds with. But I use it for my ferments. Or if you don't have that, which more than likely you don't, you can take the jar and you can put it in a small little cooler, and you can fill 2 other jars like this with really, really hot tap water. And just put that in there. Put like 1 on each side of your yogurt and close your cooler lid, and every 8 hours replace your hot water, and in 24 hours this will be ready. It's 24 hours. So you're replacing that water maybe 3 times. If you open it and it's still really hot in there, then don't replace it. And I'll typically put like a towel over it and kind of cozy it up to keep the heat even more insulated. And that's all you got to do. And then this is ready in the next day. Like if you make it tonight, you got yogurt ready tomorrow night. It's that fast. So these are the 2 things, the yogurt and kefir, the 2 things that I was doing before I wound up with my C. diff. And 2 things that I didn't realize the power of them, but I was putting in my kids' fruit smoothies every single day. They were getting kefir and yogurt when they grew up every single day. They loved their fruit smoothies. They looked forward to it. But I was boosting their immune system, which I knew, but not to the extent I know now, how critical it was. So I think that's the extent. I'm going to go ahead and take this out. Do you guys have any questions?
Koren, this kind of lid here, I'm on overload.
I know.
So I need some different kind of sessions. I'm willing to do different kinds of sessions so I can actually learn how to do it. I'm determined to learn how to do it, but as of today, I wouldn't be able to do anything.
Oh, not even these?
Yeah, I could do that.
Okay. Yeah. You can see, you can do something then.
You can give us some paper.
Yeah.
I do have some paperwork. Yes, I do. I have all that. I may not have enough printouts, but they probably have a copy machine here, don't they? Yeah, so we can make more copies if I don't have enough. So I'm just putting the water in here. I dissolved my sugar.
You're right. You're right.
You got to save enough room for the starter liquid. The starter liquid is just the kombucha from my last batch I made. It's kind of like Amish friendship bread, you know. You got to save a little starter, and then the Scobie. So you just want to make sure that this is room temperature before you put this in, because you'll kill it, which it is. Put your finger in there. It's fine. So then you just want to dump this in here like that. And so this does need a coffee filter and a rubber band around it.
What is a SCOBie?
Scobie is just a little bacteria. I'll leave it open so you guys can look at it. Scobie stands for Symbiotic Colony of Bacteria and Yeast. It's an acronym. It's just a thing of bacteria, which converts this whole thing into good, healthy bacteria for us. Yeah, so I mean, I didn't tell you guys, but I mean, I told you that all other countries but America does fermented foods. So like this is from Germany. Fermented vegetables are pretty much every country. Koreans are what make kimchi, but they make theirs really, really spicy. I don't make mine spicy. Yogurt and kefir are European, and kombucha is from China, and water kefir is from Russia. So it's like all these countries know how to get ferments into their daily diet, but we don't.
So like the yogurt and the kefir, if we purchase it like at Half Nuts or something like that, how long can we keep that in the refrigerator?
This here,
'Cause we would put it in the
don't leave in the refrigerator
Oh,
over there.
no.
I don't leave these specifically because I can't legally sell them.
Oh.
But if you want them, I can sell them directly to you, but I can't put them,
Oh, so then it's only that.
So you would have to-
that Saturdays.
like Carmen. Carmen ordered a yogurt and kefir today, and so I brought her a yogurt and kefir.
Oh.
So if you directly contact me, I can sell it to you, but I can't leave it, because like, for example, raw milk's not even legal in the state of Illinois. The only reason that I can purchase it, raw milk, is because I own a portion of the cow. So if you own a portion of the cow, then you can actually keep the milk from it. That's how I can buy it legally.
So we could like contact you and then if you would like drop it off at Health Nuts or something, we could go pick it up. Something
Yes.
like that. Would that work?
Yes, that would work. That would work.
And how do you make the kimchi?
The kimchi, okay, you saw the picture. So the kimchi is just a lot of different vegetables. It's got Napa cabbage, green cabbage. The reason it's red is because there's the purple cabbage in there. I have daikon radish in there, red radish, green onion, ginger, garlic. What What am I missing? Is that carrots? And this is my Americanized recipe. Because Koreans, they put, and there's a little bit of red pepper flakes in here, but not much. Like, you won't even taste them. There's no heat in here at all, really. But the Koreans make it super spicy. You can't even hardly swallow it. I figure you can always put peppers in there, but you can't take them out. So I make it mild, so you guys can always add heat to it. Yeah. Yeah, so what I'm going to, you guys have any more questions about?
Oh, so you make it just like you did these other things?
Kind of like, this went in the tub, like from the picture that we showed up there, in the big tub, and then you kind of massage it. You massage it, and then it gets juicier and juicier. And when it's like really juicy and the vegetables are really soft, then you put it inside of a jar and smash it down and let the brine come up, and then top it with some water.
So the only two things that you would massage is the things that have the cabbage,
Right.
kimchi, and sauerkraut.
Yes,
Nothing else. Okay.
right. I mean, if you tried to massage a beet or a radish,
That's okay.
I wanna see
So
that.
you put radishes cut up?
these are really thinly sliced. But try them. I mean, see if you guys can pull some out of here, because there's daikon in here and there's red, but they don't taste anything like a radish. So, I mean, next week I'll have my radish and my beets in the refrigerator across the street that are fermented. They're still sitting on my counter fermenting.
You got a big counter.
I got stuff all over the place. I have like 9 deep freezers and a